Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. And we are here today. I've done a few conversations, a few shows about some different rankings. I did one just the other day about Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, where they ranked the Seahawks secondary, where they ranked the Seahawks running backs and receivers and front seven. And it was, I thought, a pretty good, logical conversation about the position groups from two guys that take their job seriously, that actually pay attention to different player movements across the NFL, that actually know who Rayshon Jenkins is, that know his background, that know some of the details. I bring up Rayshon Jenkins because he's not the guy that everybody knows, but they talked about him and they went into depth about why he has a chance to really reclaim the type of player he had been in with the Chargers in Seattle. And I thought that was it was cool. It was cool to hear the conversation, and I was happy to go over it. They're not the only ones that do rankings. And while a lot of people, I think, do rankings to be intentionally hyperbolic, intentionally clickbaity, I don't really follow those as much. PFF is a place that always gets big responses from people one way or another. And generally, I think you'll find on this show that I defend PFF, not like not adamantly, but I do believe that they have a relatively stable grading process that they use across the league, across the players, across time. That's a useful, assessment tool. It doesn't mean that it's the one thing, the end all be all, but there's always some grades that you're just like, oh my God, what are they talking about? Well, they have been releasing their rankings for position groups, not all position groups, but they have for a few position groups, which I'll share. And then they also have been releasing their rankings for every individual position. And I got to tell you, folks, some of those rankings absolutely blew me back in my chair. I was like, what are you talking about? How can that possibly be? And the rankings don't matter. They don't matter. They won't matter once people get on the field. That's what will decide games. Where they do matter, or where they are relevant, is in just assessing, like, how much respect are the Seahawks entering this season with? Which players are entering the season with respect or not? And I think you'll be surprised by some of the rankings that I'm going to share with you and the implications, I think, about the amount of respect that some of these players have, including some of the best players on the Seahawks team. I see some folks in chat. Good morning to you. I am coming to you very early this morning because on a Saturday, because I've got some stuff I got to get to today with the fam and wanted to get this content out. This is day 104 in a row of fresh Seahawks content every morning. The only place that you're going to find fresh Seahawks content every single day, 7 days a week in the morning, that you can enjoy in your car ride, in your bike ride, in your walk, in your jog, whatever it might be. You will get it here every single day. And with that said, I will ask you just to please take a brief moment, give the show a like, click subscribe, help us continue to grow. The amount of people that can find what we're doing here would really appreciate that. And I hope everybody's going to get out there and enjoy what's going to be a scorcher of a day up here in the PNW. Absolutely. For me personally, I'll take the low 70s, but these upper 80s days, you can handle them every once in a while for sure. All right, so let's start with some things that are not that controversial. But I think I'm going to go over all the rankings here, and we can decide together which one of them are most ridiculous, most egregious. And I'd love to hear from you in chat as we go through it, what you think. So let's start with the offensive line, who all Seahawks fans, I think, are fed up with, unhappy with, have been unhappy with for ages. Where do you think that PFF has the Seahawks offensive line ranked out of 32 teams? And I will give you the answer for the other NFC West teams before I give you the Seahawks answer. So out of 32 teams, where does the Seahawks offensive line rank? As we talked about when we did our NFC West draft, the overall NFC West is not great on the offensive line. The top ranked offensive line in the NFC West, according to PFF, is the Rams, which is not a shock. That's how I would have it ranked as well. But they only have them ranked at 16. I would have had the Rams as potentially a top 12 offensive line. I might be just a little higher on what they did this offseason with signing Jonah Jackson, who I think not everybody's as high on. I mean, former Pro Bowl player. I think he's a very good player, very strong player. And that allowed them to move their second-year player, Steve Avila, to center. So they've got a really stout, really large trio on the interior of their offensive line. And then Rob Havenstein's a totally serviceable right tackle. And Alaric Jackson is essentially a Charles Cross level left tackle. I think that's definitely, in my opinion, the best offensive line in the NFC West. So they had them at 16. They had the 49ers. This was a good one, an interesting one, at 24th, which I think is actually, I'll agree with them on this. I think the 49ers, outside of Trent Williams, a declining Trent Williams, have nobody of note. And so the 49ers are the 24th ranked offensive line by PFF. Now, here's where it gets a little wild to me. They've got the Cardinals at 26th, and maybe this is splitting hairs. But I don't see how the Cardinals offensive line is better than the Seahawks offensive line. As negative as I am about the Seahawks offensive line, I mean, the Cardinals signed Evan Brown to play center. I'm not convinced Evan Brown is better than Olu. We'll see that this year. I'm not convinced either of the Cardinals tackles are better than the Seahawks tackles. And we'll see what happens with Christian Haynes, but I'm bullish on him. I think Laken Tomlinson is a perfectly serviceable guard. I don't think he's the best thing ever, but I would take the Seahawks offensive line over the Cardinals offensive line. I absolutely would. I say that with a straight face, and I say that as someone who is very negative about how the Seahawks offensive line is played. But then we get to the Seahawks. The Seahawks are ranked 31st out of 32 units. And the explanation that PFF gives is, hey, they had injuries with their tackles. They moved on from Evan Brown and Damian Lewis. And they call the interior trio consists of former backups, Oluwatimi and Anthony Bradford. Well, Oluwatimi was a rookie last year. I mean, to call him a backup, I think is really disingenuous, and I think it shows not really paying attention to what's going on. And then Anthony Bradford started more games than anyone else at right guard for the Seahawks last year, so I don't know that really counts as a backup. And then they talk about that that Abe Lucas was hurt and they don't know what they're going to get from him. Charles Cross was just okay, which is true. But there's no mention of Christian Haynes anywhere in here. Fine, okay. And by the way, they do mention other rookies on other teams, so they're just ignoring that. And I'm not going to say, like I said, I'm not going to get too up in arms about the Seahawks being ranked 31st on the offensive line. Until they do otherwise, fine. I think Mike Clay had them as 32nd. But I think the Seahawks are going to come in significantly above that. I really do. I think between the new line coach, between getting healthier on the offensive line, getting some additional depth and competition at right guard, stabilizing it with a veteran at left guard that they haven't really had to lean on in past years. I think this group's going to be, if I had to bet, I think they're going to be about 20th in the NFL this year, 15th to 20th, so we'll see. So that is the first. And I don't think anyone's going to go like shouting at the moon about the Seahawks being ranked as one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. We got a question from one of our YouTube members, Eric Tamura. Were they basing the ranking on us not having Anthony Bradford available? No, they have. Abe Lucas. What am I doing? Were they basing the ranking on not having Abe Lucas available? No, they just based it off of. They predicted a starting lineup of Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, Laken Tomlinson, Olu Oluwatimi, and Anthony Bradford. And they are basing it off of the grade that Abe Lucas had last year, which was not good. It was significantly worse than his rookie year. So not only did he not play as much last year, but when he did play, he was not good. So that's what they are basing the ranking on. All right, so that's offensive line, 31. Let's talk about running backs. And this one, let me make sure I got the right one listed here. Yeah, running backs. Again, I'll go through this. This is the whole group. I'm also going to give you some of the individual position rankings. That's where things get really wild. But running backs, they have the 49ers ranked number 1 in the NFL. I don't think that's crazy. They have, where do you think running backs for the Seahawks? I'm curious where you guys think the Seahawks running back group would rank in the NFL. And where do you think they'd rank in the NFC West? Well, they have got the Rams ahead of the Seahawks. They have the Rams at 11. And just to give you a reminder, if you missed the Move the Sticks one that I did, both Bucky and Daniel Jeremiah had the Seahawks as 3rd out of 4 groups in the NFC West. So this is consistent with that. They do mention here that this might be too high of a ranking for the Rams, and that a lot of it's based off how much they think Blake Corum's a good fit. They have the Seahawks at 14th in running back rankings. Again, I don't think we haven't gotten too ridiculous yet. We will get there momentarily. They've got the Seahawks at 14th among the 32 teams in running backs. The Cardinals are at 16th. So this is where the offensive line has been such a terrible spot for the NFC West. This is a relatively strong area with the lowest ranking group being the Cardinals at 16th. Okay, let's keep going because there's a lot to get to here. If we talk about the wide receiver units, all right, they have this is, I think, Trevor Sikkema on this one, has the 49ers as number 1. So again, number 1 running backs, number 1 receivers. They have the Rams at number 8, which is interesting to me. They have the Seahawks at 10th. Now, they're basing this also on the tight end position and how running backs are as pass catchers. I don't know, man. I mean, I think that the Rams have a few, like their tight end room's a little questionable with the injuries that they've had there. Colby Parkinson, who is the 3rd Seahawks tight end, was their free agent signing. I'm not sure I see that DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, Noah Fant, Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet as a receiving group is worse than the Rams. And to remind you, for Move the Sticks, Bucky had the Seahawks receivers as number 1. Daniel Jeremiah had them as number 2, and he even admitted their top 3 is probably better. So 10th and behind the Rams, I think is pretty questionable. Not quite ridiculous, but questionable. The Cardinals, by the way, were ranked 21st. in this group. All right, so we're going to start getting into things that really boiled my blood. And let's get into defensive line. Okay. Defensive line for the Seahawks. Where would you think defensive line ranks? Now, their definition of defensive line is including edge rushers. So this includes your outside linebackers, your Uchenna Nwosus, your Boye Mafes, so on and so forth. Right. And admittedly, the Seahawks edge group is not as star-packed as others. But you've got maybe the best, if not top 2 or 3 defensive tackle groups in the NFL. They had the Jets as number 1 in the NFL, by the way. They had the 49ers as number 2. That by itself already, to me, makes this a ridiculous ranking. Their explanation is, even with the loss of Eric Armstead, the star power of this defensive line is too good to ignore. Nick Bosa's a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. Javon Hargrave is close to as good as it gets as an interior rusher, which he's good, but he's not as good as it gets. I can tell you about that for sure. And the team added Leonard Floyd as a complement opposite Bosa. And then it says depth is an issue, but the end of this group, the top end of this group is outstanding. It's not. I mean, the top end is Nick Bosa, period. Javon Hargrave is an awful run defender. Leonard Floyd is an awful run defender and a deteriorating pass rusher. Malik Collins is an awful run defender and a mediocre pass rusher. This is not the number 2 group in the NFL. It's just not. As we look here, going a little further, and by the way, you know, they've got the Seahawks all the way down here at 17. You've got a team with, and this is their explanation, by the way. They do say the Seahawks defensive line may be readying itself for a big step forward simply because of the incoming coaching staff under Mike Macdonald. The methodology of the new system allows players with greater speed and less thinking time, potentially leading to big seasons for the likes of Leonard Williams, Boye Mafe, and Uchenna Nwosu. Rookie Byron Murphy could also hit the ground running from the inside. Well, no crap. I mean, like, the interior of this line is significant. They're not even talking about Jaron Reed, who had 7 sacks last year, who is a better player at this point than Malik Collins. Two-way player. Run, defense, and pass rush. It's almost like the only way they're looking at this is pass pressure, which is more important. But I'm telling you, the 49ers run defense on that line is going to be a problem for them this year. The Seahawks run defense, I think, got meaningfully better, not only with the players we're talking about, but Jonathan Hankins is going to be better for them as nose tackle than Jaron Reed was as nose tackle last year. So 17, bottom half of the NFL, is absolutely atrociously ridiculous. And I think the Seahawks are going to significantly outperform this. I see this as a top 5 unit. Now, if you're including edge rushers, I can get into like top 7, top 8, but there's no way this group's outside the top 10. No way. If you're getting into front sevens, where you're including the off-ball linebackers, then I think there's more questions. But this is going to look silly. And this is just demonstrating a lack of respect for that group. For what it's worth, they've got the Rams at 23rd, and they've got the Cardinals as 32nd. All right. So those are some of the position group rankings that they've got. But now let's talk about the best players at every position, okay? We're going to go through this, and some of these are wild. Let's start out with cornerback. Cornerback's a strength of the Seahawks, right? If you didn't know, the Seahawks had the sixth best collective grade for their whole cornerback room in the NFL last year. So you'd think, and let's talk about it. We had Cody Alexander on the show from Match Quarters. He said Tariq Woolen, number 2 in the NFL behind only Sauce Gardner in man coverage last year. PFF had Tariq Woolen as the number 1 ranked man cover corner last year. It's pretty good, right? So that's just Tariq Woolen. We haven't even gotten to Devin Witherspoon, who I think most of us believe is the better player. Well, they have Sauce Gardner as number 1. I don't, whatever, no problems with that. I'm scrolling down here thinking, okay, where am I going to see Devin Witherspoon? Okay, Trent McDuffie's number 2. Charvarius Ward's number 3. Would you prefer to have Charvarius Ward over Devin Witherspoon on your team? I don't think you would. I don't think you should. But okay, I mean, Charvarius Ward played very well last year, but it was 1 year that he played very well. Pat Surtain, number 4. Pat Surtain's quite good. He had a pretty bad year last year. He was not the same player. Okay. Jalen Johnson of the Bears, number 5. He certainly had a big breakout year last year. Jalen Ramsey, number 6. Fine. Jairi Alexander, 7. Okay. Kendall Fuller, 8. He is very good, but we're starting to get into some question marks here. Michael Carter of the Jets, 9. They call him the best slot corner in the NFL. Teron Johnson, 10. So now we're getting Devin Witherspoon's not even among the top 10. I got to give you some. I mean, this is using their own information against them, by the way. Of the players, this is taking forever. Of the players that played, let's say at least 50% of the snaps last year, where do you think Devin Witherspoon ranked in grades for cornerbacks? He wasn't number 1. That was Jalen Johnson. Okay, fine. He wasn't number 2 or number 3, but he was number 4. He was number 4 in the NFL as a rookie last year. And you're telling me he's not even in the top 10 of your rankings of individual cornerbacks? By the way, we're not even close to done yet. Okay, Taron Johnson's number 10. Darius Williams is number 11? You'd rather have Darius Williams than either Tariq Woolen or Devin Witherspoon? Come on. L'Jarius Sneed, 12. Brian Branch gets a higher grade ranking than Devin Witherspoon at 13. I think Brian Branch is great. Jeff Simmons and I were huge Brian Branch guys in the draft last year. I think the Lions obviously got a steal, but how you have Devin Witherspoon ranking below Brian Branch, I think is absurd. Makes no sense. We're not even done yet. DJ Reed, 14. Rasul Douglas, 15. Marlon Humphrey, 16. Denzel Ward, 17. Jamal Dean, 18. Trayvon Diggs, 19. Asante Samuel, 20. Folks, we have to wait till we get to 21 to see a Seahawk listed, and it's Devin Witherspoon. That is atrocious. Devin Witherspoon is nowhere near the 21st ranked cornerback in the NFL this year. That is absolutely ridiculous and embarrassing and shameful. But bottom line, it's just disrespectful. 21. There are not 20 better corners in the NFL than Devin Witherspoon. We've got a super chat here. Appreciate that from Bruce Spring. Says, love the show. When's the next roundtable? P.S. These grades are nauseating. Well, hopefully you're able to keep your breakfast down, Bruce. Next roundtable. Well, I've been giving the guys a break. We'll probably do the next roundtable after camp starts when we have something that is probably, worth digging into as a trio. It's possible we'll do something sooner. Maybe we'll do a camp preview. That might make some sense for us to do. And obviously Real Hawk Talk should be back, I think, as early as this next Wednesday. I like to give folks a little bit of time off, not for myself, but for everybody else. So, yeah, appreciate it, Bruce, and love your country, by the way. Had fun up there just a little while ago. So Devin Witherspoon at 21. By the way, we haven't gotten to Tariq Woolen, who I mentioned. PFF's own grades had him as the number 1 ranked man cover corner in the NFL last year. So Devin Witherspoon's 21. Carlton Davison's 22. Carlton Davis is 22. Stephon Gilmore is 23. The guy's like 75 years old. Greg Newsome is 24. Tariq Woolen is 25. And they even go in here. They're like, well, he has had 8 interceptions over the past 2 years, which is third most in the position. Of course, he's 25th there. And his 79 coverage grade is very good. And then they say this, with the emergence of Devin Witherspoon, Woolen was perhaps overlooked in 2023, but his overall play was arguably better in his second season. How do you come to 25th in the NFL? I want Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen to see this, that they are considered the 21st and 25th best corners in the NFL. That's going to look very foolish come this season. Got a comment here from a couple of our YouTube members. Peter Jacobson says, quickly looking at the counting stats, it's like PFF looked at interception numbers and ranked the cornerbacks in order. I don't know if that's what they did. You might be right, but that would seem surprising to me. Jeffrey 4, another YouTube member, says, so 4th highest grade equals 21st best player. What about the other top 5 graded corners? Well, I'll tell you. Jalen Johnson, Deron Bland, Sauce Gardner, and Kendall Fuller, they were all among the Sauce Gardner was 1. Jalen Johnson was 5. Kendall Fuller was 8. Deron Bland, they did have him a little further down. Where do they have Deron Bland? They had him at 31. So if I'm a Cowboys fan, maybe I'm not loving that either. It's anyway, that one blew my mind. Okay. I was like, what are you talking about? All right. So let's take a respite from the absolute ridiculous. We'll get into some more ridiculous in a second. Let me tell you some interesting ones. Some ones that were like, okay, what do we think about this? Their inside linebacker rankings, individual rankings. Best inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker in the NFL. Anyone want to take a moment to guess? I think we all would guess it is Fred Warner. Not a surprise. Roquan Smith's probably in the conversation. He is number 2. I think you can, 6 and 1, half dozen of the other, both incredibly good. Demario Davis is 3 for the Saints. He's still very good despite his age. Matt Milano, 4. So you got a lot of, not shocking names. It's a little surprised to have Levante David at 6, even though he's 34 years old. He's still a very good player, but that's kind of surprising. we get into this, and the part that kind of raised some eyebrows for me, they had Devondre Campbell of the 49ers, who nobody wanted in free agency. The 49ers didn't even want him in free agency. They tried to sign, what was it, Eric Kendricks, who then spurned them to go play, I think, for the Cowboys. And they were left with Devondre Campbell as their like sloppy seconds or thirds or fourths. They got him as 19. They have him above Frankie Louvu. They have him above Bobby Wagner. I don't see that. The Seahawks' top-ranked inside linebacker is Tyrell Dodson at 22. All right. I don't hate that. Tyrell Dodson has a lot of proving left to do. I'm not going to come in here and pound the table about Tyrell Dodson's ranking. He's got to earn it. He did a great job in his time last year, but he's got to do it again, and he's got to do it over a much larger sample size. Jerome Baker, interestingly, is 24. Okay, so 22 and 24. That's not a bad. I mean, essentially, they're saying that the Seahawks inside linebacker room is better than their cornerback room. If Devin Witherspoon's 21 and Tariq Woolen's 25, and they've got Dodson at 22 and Baker at 24, the implication is that the inside linebacker room is better relatively than the cornerback room, which is just a joke. I mean, it's just a total joke. But what was fascinating here, you know who's not on this list at all? Like, does not show up? Jordan Brooks. I'm sure C-Mike Spin Move, Griff Sturgeon would boil over at that. But interesting to see no Jordan Brooks on this list at all 32 guys, and he did not show up. If I was a Rams fan, I would be furious with the fact that Ernest Jones of the Rams is 30th on this list. I would 100% take Ernest Jones over either of our inside linebackers. Their comment here is he led all linebackers in quarterback pressures last season, and seventh while also being seventh in the position with an 86.2 run defense grade. I don't know. I think Ernest Jones is very, very good. But that one's like not crazy, but I thought it was interesting at least to see Jordan Brooks not ranked at all. And both the Seahawks linebackers that they signed in free agency ranked 22 and 24. All right. So we've done the cornerback. Let's do another interesting one. Safety rankings. Antoine Winfield Jr. Sorry, I got a funny comment from one of our YouTube members. Peter Jacobson became a YouTube member getting a suspicious amount of Adobe ads on YouTube. Wonder if Brian knows anything about this. I used to work at Adobe, and so that would be really funny. Maybe people have connected somehow. The algorithms have connected me with my Adobe background, and I'm curious if anyone else is getting Adobe ads. That's pretty funny. All right. So Antoine Winfield, the top safety ranking. Kyle Hamilton, number 2. Jesse Bates, number 3. Minkah Fitzpatrick, 4. Marcus Williams, 5. Nothing shocking here, right? Pretty nice for the Ravens to have Kyle Hamilton at 2 and Marcus Williams at 5. That is a damn good room right there. Derwin James at 7, Xavier McKinney at 8. So we're kind of going down the line here. I didn't expect anyone to have the Seahawks safeties ranked particularly high. The top ranked NFC West player at safety is Talanoa Hufanga at 13. Now, Hufanga is an all-pro when he was healthy. I think he is a fantastic player. I wish he wasn't as good as he is. He is coming off a serious injury. We'll see how he plays when he comes back from that. But they've got him at 13. They've got Budda Baker right behind him at 14. So those are the top NFC West safeties. And we're still going down the next. They've got Geno Stone of the Bengals, who is formerly of the Ravens, at 20. This is where I have some problem. I don't think Geno Stone is a better safety than the guys the Seahawks have on their roster. And I think that Mike McDonald made Geno Stone what he is, and we'll see for sure this season. They've got Cam Curl, who the Rams signed at 21. So we still haven't seen a Seahawks safety yet. I mean, we're really getting some stretches, I think. They've got Grant Delpit of the Browns at 22, Trevon Moehrig of the Raiders at 23, Cameron Bynum of the Vikings. They got Jalen Thompson of the Cardinals all the way down at 26. I think he deserves much more respect than that personally. And this is someone who's not a big fan of most of what the Cardinals have on their roster. The only safety that the Seahawks have on the that they have on the rankings is Julian Love at 28. And they say Love's first season with the Seahawks could not have gone much better as he recorded career highs in his PFF overall grade, his PFF coverage grade, and his coverage grade ranked 11th among safeties, and his 4 interceptions tied for third most of the position. There's still room for Love to improve as a run defender, as he earned a sub-60 run defense grade for the 4th straight season. For him to be 11th in coverage grade, 3rd in interceptions, and after week 4 of the season, after week 3 of the season, I think he was a top 5 graded safety overall. 28 is too low. I don't think it's ridiculous because, look, the Seahawks safeties don't have the respect. They haven't put the time in, the performance in yet. I think we're going to look back at this and say the fact that the Seahawks had only one safety on this list, I think that's going to look foolish. I think Rayshawn Jenkins is a guy that is going to absolutely be someone who ranks above Jordan Battle and Cameron Bynum and Trevon Moehrig, right? So safety rankings, not too shocking. Let's go to another one that got me going. Wide receivers, individual wide receivers. Who are the top 32 wide receivers in the NFL? I think most people would agree the Seahawks' best receiver is DK Metcalf, right? And you're talking about a group that's in conversation for one of the best receiver rooms in the NFL. You'd think that there'd be some respect here for Seahawks receivers. DK Metcalf is a guy that has a lot of national acclaim. So just by reputation, you think he'd be pretty high on this list. Not the highest, but high. Justin Jefferson's number 1, not a shock. Tyreek Hill, number 2. Jamar Chase, 3. CeeDee Lamb, 4. A.J. Brown, 5. Devontae Adams, 6. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7. Brandon Ayuk, 8. Cooper Kupp, 9. Okay, now I'm still, wait a second. Like Cooper Kupp at his best, healthiest from a few years ago, sure, but he was not close to the 9th best receiver last year. He just was not. He only played 12 games, and he's 31. So that already is like, Deebo Samuel at 10. Stephon Diggs at 11. Stephon Diggs is declining. There's a reason the Bills traded him. He does not belong above DK Metcalf at this point. There is not a single GM in the NFL who would prefer to have Stephon Diggs to DK Metcalf going into next season. Not one. And I've been hard on DK about some things, but there's no one. I think Stephon Diggs has been an excellent receiver, great route runner. He is not the 11th best receiver in the NFL. They've got DJ Moore at 12, Puka Nacua at 13. I don't know that most people would take Puka Nacua over DK Metcalf. Now, Puka Nacua is a very good receiver, but he had one season as a rookie, and he is a limited athlete. I don't know that people would pick him if the draft was right now, that they'd take him over DK Metcalf, despite the numbers he put up. Garrett Wilson is 14. Nico Collins at 15. I mean, I think this is like a lot of revisionist stuff. I'm like, where's DK Metcalf on this list? Well, we'll keep going. Devonta Smith at 16. DeAndre Hopkins at 17. DeAndre Hopkins is old and absolutely declining. There's no way you take DeAndre Hopkins over DK Metcalf. No way. Terry McLaurin at 18, Amari Cooper at 19. Folks, we are like getting into the last half of this list. Mike Evans at 20, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 21, who's never played a snap in the NFL. We've still not called DK Metcalf's name. Keenan Allen at 22, also on the all-old team. I like Keenan Allen, but he's old. Jalen Waddle at 23. Finally, we get to DK Metcalf. They've got him as the 24th ranked receiver in the NFL. I mean, come on. I can be as critical of DK Metcalf as anybody. There is no way he is the 24th best receiver in the NFL. That is absolutely ludicrous. They've got Malik Neighbors right behind him, another guy who's never played in the NFL before. They've got Roma Dunze at 29, who's never played in the NFL before. That's the only receiver that makes the list for the Seahawks. Only one. So if the Seahawks really do have one of the best receiving rooms in the NFL, which I think they do, to say that they've only got one receiver of the top 32 and that one is ranked 24th, I mean, something's not at the math is not mathing. I don't buy that. I just don't buy it. All right. So that is one of the other most egregious, ridiculous rankings in here. It's just like, okay, you guys suck. Let's get to interior defenders. Okay. This is interior defensive linemen. And you'd think the Seahawks would do pretty well here, right? There's another position group that they should be among the better ones. Chris Jones, number 1. No argument. Dexter Lawrence, number 2. No argument. Quinnen Williams, 3. Derek Brown, 4. Cam Hayward, 5. All right. He's 35 years old. I don't know that I have him as the 5th best, but okay. DeForest Buckner, 6. Javon Hargrave, 7. I don't know. Okay. This is what they say about Hargrave. Hargrave was a better run defender than a pass rusher early in his career, but over the past few seasons, he's been one of the best pass rushers in games, seemingly at the expense of that run defense. He's had consecutive pass rushing grades of above 91 before last season's 86.5 mark. But in none did he earn a run defense grade above 51. Yeah, because he sucks at run defense. So I don't understand how you can be, unless you're just looking at pass rush, how you can have Javon Hargrave at 7. I think that's ludicrous. I mean, they have Jeffrey Simmons below him at 8 for the Titans. Jeffrey Simmons is significantly better than Javon Hargrave. And I think almost every NFL front office would take Jeffrey Simmons over Javon Hargrave. So I already am like, not a big fan. They've got Jalen Carter at 9. I think Jalen Carter still got a lot to prove. I think we're going to see how he does when Fletcher Cox is not there, when more of the pressure is on his back. How does he do? We'll see. They've got Christian Wilkins as 10, who I'd have above a lot of the guys I just mentioned. Justin Madubuike at 11, Christian Barmore, who I honestly didn't know that much about, and have come to appreciate him a lot more. He's a very good player. We're going to see him in week 2 with the Patriots. They got him at 12. DJ Reader at 13. I mean, he's just a run stuffer. So he did have a decent, couple showings from a pass rush perspective, but there's no way DJ Reader is 13 on this list. Jonathan Allen, definitely have Jonathan Allen over DJ Reader. They have him at 14. Alim McNeil of the Lions. We have not ranked a Seahawk yet. Then we get to Kobe Turner at 16, a guy that I'm very high on, but has not had to play without Aaron McDonald yet. We'll see how he does when he's not benefiting from the attention that Aaron McDonald gets. First Seahawk rank is Leonard Williams at 17. I'm not going to freak out about that. I think Leonard Williams is around 12 is where I'd have Leonard Williams. 17 is not wildly crazy, but I don't think that he's in the bottom half of starting defensive tackles, which is what, if there's, I guess that's not the bottom half. That's bottom half of this list. If there's 32 teams and 2 defensive tackles starting on each, maybe 64, depending on how you look at it. But they've got him at 17. They've got David Onyemata at 18, Arik Armstead at 19, Zach Sealer at 20, Vita Vea at 21, which is kind of shocking to me. I'd have Vita Vea over a lot of the guys I just mentioned. Ed Oliver at 22. Osa Adiguzua of the Cowboys, who I don't know, but he's 23. They got Daquan Jones at 24. They have Byron Murphy at 25. He's the only rookie on this list. And they say the first and only rookie to make the list. Murphy being ranked here is based purely on projection. Well, no kidding. They did purely projection for 3 receivers making the top 30 on their other list, but whatever. Murphy has the profile to make an immediate impact in the NFL with a prototypical pass rushing skill set. He also has the strength that meant he was often lining up as nose tackle. He had an elite pass rush win rate of 19.6% last season and a 91.9 pass rushing grade against true pass sets. Yeah. I think 25 is going to look like a silly ranking for this guy once the year starts, because defensive tackle is a very thin position. That's part of what, if you're not picking up on this, some of the names I'm reading, these are not great players, and they're among the top 32 in the NFL. It also makes that ranking that they had before of the Seahawks defensive line at 17th that much more ridiculous when Javon Hargrave is the only defensive tackle on this list for the 49ers, and the Seahawks have 2, and Jaron Reed isn't even included. Interestingly, they have Byron Murphy ranked ahead of Kenny Clark, ahead of Grady Jarrett, who a lot of people have compared him to. So, again, I think some pretty questionable grades there. Let's go through the others and just see some of these I'll react to. Here's one. Let's talk about center. Of course, Creed Humphrey's number 1, just to stick the knife in and twist it a little bit. They've got center is not a particularly deep position. All right. You're getting into already the number 10 is Andre James. I would bet nobody knows who Andre James is or what team he plays for. Aaron Brewer. Connor McGovern is 16. So, if you get all the way down here, they've got Olu Oluwatimi as 30th out of 32 centers in the NFL. They have him below Zach Frazier, who is a rookie. They have him below Graham Barton, who is a rookie, which, by the way, that might be right. I think Graham Barton is going to be very good. They've got him below John Michael Schmitz, who I was a big fan of last year. They have John Michael Schmitz as 26. He earned the lowest overall grade at the position, as well as the worst pass blocking grade. And that's it. That's their description. But they have him as 26. Why isn't he 32nd? And so for Olu, their reasoning for him being 30th, he was barely featured for the Seahawks in his rookie season, appearing in just 4 games and starting one of them. However, his pass blocking ability stood out as he allowed just 1 pressure on 70 pass blocking snaps. That earned him a 75.5 pass blocking grade, which, by the way, was the number one pass blocking grade of any rookie offensive lineman, period, center or otherwise. I don't think that deserves 30th on this list. And I don't think he's going to be the 30th ranked center when this season is said and done. All right. What else? Let's talk offensive tackle. This one, I'm really curious what you guys think. Now, consider there's 64 offensive tackles in the NFL, starting offensive tackles. Where do you think Charles Cross and Abe Lucas rank on this list? There's only 32 players, and it's right tackles and left tackles. Not in the top 10, not in the top 15, not in the top 20. I'll tell you, like Rob Havenstein of the Rams checks in at 22. Not in the top 25. We're getting to Trent Brown with the Bengals, who is a one-year signing free agent. Not in the top 30. Orlando Brown for the Bengals had a career low overall grade. But he's 30th. What if I were to tell you the Seahawks had 0 offensive tackles on this list at all? None of their tackles made this list. That, I think, is going a little far. Now, granted, they've got to prove themselves. But they don't even show up on the top 32 players. What about guard? I haven't even looked at this yet. Don't know where it is. Let's take a look together. Chris Lindstrom was the number 1 ranked guard. Joe Thuney for the Chiefs, number 2. Sam Cosmi for the Commanders. Tyler Smith for the Cowboys. Quinn Miners for the Broncos. Kevin Zeitler. Man. Would have been nice to have him in Seattle. He's number 6. Zach Martin, 7. Joel Bitonio, 8. Wyatt Teller, 9. Robert Hunt, 10. Quentin Nelson, 11. Kevin Dotson is the top NFC West guard at 12. Trey Smith, 13. Isaac Simalo, 14. Landon Dickerson, 15. Tevin Jenkins, 16. Brandon Sheriff, 17. Elgin Jenkins, 18. Shaq Mason, 19. Will Hernandez of the Cardinals is 23. You can see why Leslie Frazier talked about that some of the biggest mismatches in the NFL are on the guard position. It's just not a very talented crew across the board in the NFL. Ezra Cleveland is 24. Connor McGovern, 25. I mean, Nate Davis, 26. This is a guy that had a 52.9 grade last year. Oh my gosh. I don't know what's worse, that he's got this ranking or that he's above all the Seahawks. Damian Lewis is the top rated player that we have some connection to. He's 29th. Everyone was crying about Damian Lewis. He's not even, I don't think this is a bad ranking for Damian Lewis. I don't think he's one of the best guards in the NFL. They've got Jonah Jackson as 30th. Mark Lewinsky, from what I know, is still a free agent. And he's ranked 31st on this list. Cole Strange of the Patriots is 32nd. So again, 30th ranked center, 0 of their tackles ranked in the top 32, 0 of the guards ranked in the top 32. That is what people think about this offensive line for the Seahawks. What about tight end? George Kittle's number 1, Travis Kelce is number 2. I don't know about that. Mark Andrews 3, TJ Hawkinson 4, Sam Laporta 5. Good on Sam Laporta. What a rookie season he had. Dallas Goedert 6, Kyle Pitts 7, Trey McBride 8. I think Trey McBride actually deserves to be higher on that list, but whatever. David Njoku 9, Evan Ingram 10, Cole Kmet 11, Jake Ferguson 12, Dalton Kincaid 13, Brock Bowers 14, first rookie, Pratt Freiermuth 15. I think we're getting a little bit of low grade here for Noah Fant. Dalton Schultz 16, Darren Waller 17, if he's even playing anymore. Hunter Henry 18, Gerald Everett 19. Now it's pretty disrespectful. Dawson Knox 20, Tyler Conklin 21, Chigoziem Okonkwo of the Titans 22, Luke Musgrave 23, Jonnu Smith 24, Taysom Hill is 25, Isaiah Likely 26, Noah Fant 27. My goodness, they really do not like the Seahawks, man. There's a lot of this seems like absolute hate for the Seahawks. Noah Fant 27. That is surprising, at least to me. I don't think that Noah Fant is 27th out of the tight ends. I think he's better. And I'm not even a huge Noah Fant fan, but I thought he played pretty well last year and had some pretty big plays. What else? We haven't done quarterback. Quarterback, I looked at this. I thought it was actually relatively reasonable. I didn't have any real problems with this. They've got Aaron Rodgers at 8, which I think that's a little bit ridiculous. They've got Jalen Hurts as 9, which I actually think is going to end up being a problem. I think he's in trouble over there in Philadelphia. Jordan Love at 11, Trevor Lawrence at 12. Now that one I certainly don't agree with. Brock Purdy at 13, Tua Tagovailoa at 14, Kirk Cousins at 15, Jared Goff at 16, Kyler Murray at 17, and Geno Smith at 18. And what they say about Geno Smith, in his most recent campaign, he elevated his big-time throw rate from 5.4 to 6% and reduced his turnover-worthy play percentage from 4.2 to 3.5. He missed 2 games due to a groin injury, so some of those cumulative numbers could have even been better. But Smith's 2 years have been the tale of 4 quarters. In the first half of 2022, he earned the 3rd highest passing grade in the league. In the second half, he led the league in turnover-worthy plays. In the first half of 2023, he had more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. But from week 10 on, he was top 5 in the NFL in passing grade and big-time throws. At 33 years old and entering the final year of his deal with guaranteed money, Smith may not be seen as a franchise quarterback, but he's absolutely the kind of guy who can engineer a win in any given week. I don't have a huge issue with that. And again, I've talked about quarterback rankings. I think it's less relevant where the quarterback is ranked and more relevant whether the quarterback is the type of player you can win a Super Bowl with. And I think Geno is above the line on that list. I think the amount of supporting cast he needs to be a championship level quarterback, I think is not unreasonable. I think he can win with a decent group. All right, let's look at a couple more and then we'll wrap up here. Let's do running back. They've got Christian McCaffrey as number 1, not a shock. Derrick Henry at 2. I don't think he's the second best running back in the NFL at this point in his career, but fine. They got Nick Chubb at 4. Nick Chubb had catastrophic knee injury. I don't know how he could be 4th on this list. Bijan Robinson is 5. I think Bijan is certainly ahead of those guys. Saquon Barkley at 6, which I also would have above those guys. Breece Hall at 7, Aaron Jones at 8, Jahmyr Gibbs at 9, Josh Jacobs at 10, Travis Etienne of the Jaguars at 11, Kenneth Walker comes in at 12. I would have Kenneth Walker higher than probably 3 or 4 spots higher. Not the end of the world. Curious, Kyron Williams at 16. I think some people would be surprised about that. James Conner at 17 also seems a little bit surprising. As you go down this list, I don't think there's going to be any other Seahawks that show up here, but I'm curious. Joe Mixon is 27th. Man, that guy's really fallen off. Austin Eckler at 29. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Zach Charbonnet has a chance to be on this list after this season, but not surprised to not see him there. Okay. One more shocker for you, I think. Edge defender. Okay. This is Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe. No shock at the top of this list. Myles Garrett, number 1. Micah Parsons, number 2. Nick Bosa, number 3. TJ Watt, number 4. Max Crosby, number 5. Aiden Hutchinson, number 6. Khalil Mack, 7. Josh Allen, 8. Trey Hendrickson, 9. Jalen Phillips, 10. Rashawn Gary, 11. DeMarcus Lawrence, 12. Joey Bosa, 13, even though he barely has been playing. Bryce Huff, 14. Bradley Chubb, 15. Danielle Hunter, 16. I would have Danielle Hunter higher on that list. Za'Darius Smith, 17. Hassan Reddick, 18. Alex Highsmith, 19. I think we're starting to get to a point where I'm like a little uncomfortable. Where are the Seahawks on this list? Willie Anderson Jr., 20. Brian Burns, 21. Montez Sweat, 22. Brandon Graham at 35 years old, 23rd on this list. Andrew Van Ginkel, 24. Gregory Rousseau, 25. Matt Judon, 26. Jadeveon Clowney, 27. Carl Granderson, 28. Kayvon Thibodeau, 29. Jonathan Greenard, 30. He had a great year last year, so that's really low. Josh Sweat for the Eagles, 31. What? Marcus Davenport, 32. If I told you that Boye Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu were nowhere on the list of top 32 edge rushers, would you have believed me? I think Boye Mafe absolutely deserves to be on this list after the season he had last year. I'm not talking about top 10 or anything crazy, but you're telling me that Marcus Davenport and Josh Sweat are better players? I just think that's wild. If I go back and I look at let's look at their edge grades. If I look at, let's just look at pass rush grade for edge players, because that is primarily what you're judging them on. Boye Mafe ranked 18th in the NFL last year in pass rush grade. In total pressures, he ranked 23rd. I just don't see how he's not anywhere on this list. That seems crazy. Let's see. Any other position I haven't done yet? We've done cornerback, safety, linebacker, interior defensive line, edge, center, offensive guard. We've done them all. I don't know, folks. I thought those were some pretty wild grades or lack of rankings for some of these guys. Some of them were reasonable. And as much as I'm always going to be a Seahawks fan and have action green tinted glasses. That's the level of respect that the Seahawks have heading into 2024. I think that those rankings are going to look really silly. I really do. I think Mike McDonald and this group are going to do a lot better than what those rankings imply. I think the most egregious of them were the cornerback and the wide receiver rankings. I think the edge rusher rankings are pretty high up on that list of craziness. And I think that of all of them, the one that has the chance to be most biggest upside, I think Olu being 30th out of 32 centers, I think he has a chance to be a top 15 center and maybe even a top 10 center. So let's see. We're now, about 10 days away from when rookies will report to training camp. Hoping the best for everyone in the meantime. If you haven't already given the show a like, please click subscribe. Would love to have you added to the show. Only place that you get fresh Seahawks content every single day, including the weekends, every morning. So I appreciate you giving a like, click, and subscribe. Join as a YouTube member or as Patreon. Patreon.com/hawkblogger. That is where the audio versions of this show are every single day. And you get access to the Slack channel and the community that's growing there to have conversations even when we're not live. So highly, highly recommend patreon.com/hawkblogger and joining as a YouTube member. Thanks to everybody who joined for the show this morning. It's been great to have you. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been episode 104 of Hawk Blogger Mornings.